2026 ULIVETO. So let's take it month by month. Let's see what we need to do month by month, what we need, so that we have everything planned out. That's the point. The more we plan, the more we can, let's say, consolidate certain costs. And on top of that, we're a bit more organized so we can look at consumption, treatments, and so on. If you're a farm, I'd say it's a must to do it because organizing your work is important. If you work with a contractor, it's even better because you start having a series of conversations, maybe even getting some quotes to understand what action to take. In short, it's a step that Marco and I take every single year.
Even for hobbyists?
Even for hobbyists. Why the olive tree? Only a few things. Otherwise, like this year, the olive fruit fly comes and you don't get a harvest. Exactly, yes. Since the olive fruit fly is always present, what should we do? Let's start from January.
December, January, February, and March, we do the pruning.
So you keep them together for yourself, December, February, right?
We can also think in terms of work blocks. For pruning, we have 4 months. It's clear that the 2 central months are the best.
Okay.
Then those who have more plants can already start here. Obviously, this definitely applies to the whole area of southern Italy and in our regions. So in northern Italy, where theoretically it's a bit colder, there's a slightly higher risk. Let's maybe move to the months a bit later, so February, March.
Pruning, but pruning means that the actions to take at any moment are to prune, shred, or in any case remove, let's say, all the various prunings, shred. Let's use it for firewood because if we take slightly bigger pieces, maybe it's better to make firewood. Here we already start adding fertilization, so we do it here, we wait.
Let's begin here, taking a small step back. With pruning, a whole world opens up because we could talk about reform pruning and production pruning, so definitely the reforms. More invasive pruning using a chainsaw involves cutting a lot of wood. Let's do them maybe in January or February when the plants are completely dormant, when they're not growing.
Some news that will make you happy? With Marco Penitenti, we've organized an intensive pruning day together. It will be a day, a course where we will look at all types of pruning on different kinds of plants. From the youngest to those needing reshaping to polyconic vase shapes. In short, it will be a day where we will look at all these aspects and you will also have the chance to ask questions and understand everything better. No, not just pruning, but caring for the plant year-round from all angles.
We can already start making small cuts, or at least light pruning.
We call it production pruning, you know.
It's called production pruning.
So it's a pruning that, if we've pruned the plants every single year, is a maintenance pruning. Yes, the one you call production pruning.
Production pruning.
Production, okay.
Now, reform literally means that then many will fall.
So I have the abandoned tree and I haven't pruned it for years. I need to give it a shape again. I reform it, so I bring it back to a normal state.
So then all the vegetation that falls, some of it will be shredded and some will be used for firewood.
Around here, we reach this point.
Exactly. So shredding or removing, so taking away the branches or burning them, because it's possible as long as it complies with each municipality's regulations.
Let's clarify, since there's a risk of confusion when discussing burning, if we're on flat land where agricultural vehicles have access, shredding is definitely preferable. I've seen it happen in Liguria and near Assisi, in places so remote you can't reach them even with a walking tractor. In that case, in extreme situations, we can naturally talk about small controlled fires. Even there are regulations like having a fire extinguisher, and there are a series of rules to follow.
I can give you the example of the Lombardy region, which this year in 2025 made a specific decree for disadvantaged olive growing, especially Altogarda,
and so on, where burning branches in small controlled piles was still possible. Everything went well with the tools and everyone was satisfied. We don't label it, but this option is available. As I said before, we fertilize immediately.
Let's wait for fertilization then. Normally, during this winter period, we can apply organic matter, which can be manure, so basically all organic fertilization from animals.
Or let's say basic fertilization.
Basic fertilization.
Perfect. So basic fertilization, let's give it a little more here too. Manure.
Barnyard manure.
Pelletized.
All forms of organic matter and possibly even pellets.
So I'll write manure later. Just know that we've already mentioned barnyard manure and so on and so forth. Here we also treat the cuts ourselves.
Absolutely, yes. In the case of pruning, it's always better to make large cuts, and by large cuts I mean cuts over 2 inches in diameter. It's better to seal them.
Okay, we can always wait for other cuts and other treatments.
Definitely after pruning, treatment for disinfection, let's say of the plant in general.
So we do a copper-based treatment.
We do a treatment that can be copper-based. Or propolis, these are the two products, let's say, that we use for treatment.
Pruning, I'll write first, so later we understand each other. Treatment, I'm writing badly so I don't turn my back to you. Copper/propolis, perfect. What options do we have? We should almost be there.
I have to tell you that we've already done a good amount of work, because in 4 months we've already done the pruning, shredding, removal of wood, basic fertilization and treatments. We've already made a good plan.
If we do it more as a hobby, not professionally, I can't spend 2 full weeks on the olive grove, but we have weekends and can tackle it gradually.
We gave ourselves 4 months on purpose, so we have plenty of time to do this.
The only advice I have to give, because it comes from experience with olive wood, cut it when it's young, because when it's dry you won't be able to cut it, so that's the only way.
I was just telling you here.
Great, since I was the one who messed up. After that you kept dropping the chains constantly.
And another little piece of advice that I often notice, both the firewood and maybe some small branches that are kept to maybe burn them in the fire later. Anyway, let's take them out of the olive grove, because those become breeding grounds for insects like the bark beetle. They're all wood insects that, if not removed, settle in the olive grove and go on to colonize the olive trees.
Firewood and the woodshed aren't an olive grove. I always keep them separate at home.
Exactly.
Great advice. So this is the first, let's say, phase. Now we're entering the second phase, months.
April, May, June, July.
So let's start from April. What do?
We do the second round of fertilization.
So second fertilization.
For fertilization like this, we mainly use nitrogen fertilizers and micronutrients, okay?
Nitrogen, the green part. We give that, yes?
Because here we are technically in the vegetative regrowth phase, so the plant starts growing again. We gave it the real winter-based fertilization, which ideally with manure means giving back organic matter, phosphorus, potassium, so all those elements that are not mobile. Here instead we work directly on the canopy, so we add nitrogen to the soil and use foliar fertilizers.
Pay attention. The best sandwich has salami. Organic fertilization is the bread, and nitrogen fertilization is the salami, the best part. We can eat plain bread or even skip eating.
Definitely.
But let's say that if there's bread and salami, it's better. Hey, we do even better. But you just said you use more than one fertilizer type, not just pelletized, but also more foliar feeding, right?
I'm inclined to recommend pelletized fertilizers right now, because they've become extremely effective products and are almost comparable to manure. Organic matter includes both macroelements and microelements, as well as organic substance itself. So when you use pelletized fertilizer, you're still returning organic matter to the soil. And it should also be given in a significant amount per plant, about 3, 4, or 5 kilograms per plant. We distribute it 2 or 3 times over a period of time, so we do a first application in winter, one in April and one in May.
Okay, we'll review it after May. Let's pause on the foliar application. We use an atomizer or a...
We do it with an atomizer or a small pump.
Does it need to be fully ionized or can it drip? No.
Like with any treatment, dripping should not be done.
So that means when you see it, you do your treatment. If it creates a rain effect, meaning it runs off and forms a drop at the tip of the leaf, that treatment is being wasted.
Be careful, because it can also become toxic, since that tiny droplet carries all the elements with it. For example, with nitrogen or copper, concentration rises sharply in that area and it burns. It has happened to me many times to see the tips of the leaves actually brown, with olive growers calling me. Then it turns out that this is the problem.
Okay, so we did the first fertilization in April. What do we do now?
Then in May we do the second fertilization.
The third fertilization. So here I write a month, I mean more or less correctly.
Exactly.
I mean from 1 month to the next we do the third fertilization, always nitrogen, yes.
Nitrogen and foliar, a liquid, yes, because we split them. The more we can split them, the more we can dilute the fertilizations in microdoses. We give the plant small repeated doses over months so it can absorb each one instead of a single large dose.
We haven't specified fertilization, pelletize, spreading, or fertilizer. Should we apply it superficially or reinforce it? We apply it.
Well, ideally it would be best to bury it, of course, but we can also apply it superficially under the canopy projection. That's fundamental.
Okay, so not in the canopy projection area. We bury it just below since the roots are shallow, right? Yes.
Olive tree roots are shallow, so bury them 3 centimeters to prevent sunlight from drying them or causing excess growth.
Perfect. What you just said is very important. Mineralizing, which means that if our fertilizer is exposed to the sun, so in contact with light or the atmosphere, it loses its effectiveness. A series of properties that then exactly enrich the soil, right? Yes.
Because if we spread the fertilizer and leave it on the ground like that in June or July, it gets absorbed by the grass and, let's say, mineralized by the sun. The important thing is under the projection of the canopy.
Perfect. So we get to May, we've done the third fertilization, and we set up some traps, treatments.
So here we start to keep an eye on the first insects.
Okay.
Which could be the brown marmorated stink bug.
Already the stink bug in May?
Yes, we're already controlling it, and we can also manage the olive fruit fly if we want.
So let's start marking them in red, because at least these two are here. So here, we're setting alarms for stink bugs and the olive fruit fly.
The olive fruit fly, and let's also add the olive moth. The olive moth.
So here we start. Let's make a note of it in May.
Let's remember that, as with the olive fruit fly, the most notable example, it does cause damage. In August, September, but the olive fruit fly starts its flights as early as April, so the first flight happens then. It may target olives remaining on trees or fall into the ground and begin reproducing. That generation will then cause damage in July, August.
So what you're telling me is that if we, let's say, compress their reproduction, instead of having 100,000, we might get 1,000 flies or stink bugs, which could cause some damage, but we can handle it differently.
Here we're always talking about traps to capture. Let's say both the stink bug.
All 3 have traps, right? Yes.
All 3 with traps.
Bed bug together with traps. Maybe later we'll make some dedicated videos where we show them. Okay.
Even the fly. The latest experiments, or at least the latest guidelines, also recommend treatments with spintor fly, which are actually the attractive baits during this period, precisely to reduce the population.
Those are treatments done with an atomizer pump, right?
With an atomizer pump.
So here we put, so treatment, here you need a license. Yes. Okay, if they don't have the license, for now we'll use traps.
Right, exactly.
We definitely need to take that into account. Maybe we'll look into a more dedicated treatment.
That's right, because treatments with insects open up many possibilities, especially as we consider it on an Italian level. The stink bug is a problem in northern Italy, almost central Italy, and the other 2, the fly, in recent years, especially in northern Italy. But still, these are insects that you end up finding in all regions.
This stuff, no matter how much we do it, we have to do it again. That's it, right?
This stuff, for the fly, for example, is only needed in May. The bedbug starts, then goes until July. But now, in every month we mark, we keep repeating things.
If I set the trap, how many months will it last?
The physical trap is the pheromone, which you then have to change every 15-20 days, but depending on the pheromone you buy, there are specific instructions for the product you purchase.
So when you say go check, do the treatment and change the pheromone, right?
You change the pheromone?
That's right to say. So we do this again, let's say in May, June, and July.
Yes.
I can mark one for 3?
Yes, absolutely, for 3.
Does that mean once a month we have to do other treatments? For now, no.
At this moment, if the spring is rainy, I would repeat it again, a copper treatment.
And maybe it's difficult because you get more flavor in case of hail with copper. Definitely that.
Then we'll go take a look at it.
It's difficult. Maybe the hailstorm comes in July, but now with the changes, even in September, a hailstorm can come. We do treatments with either propolis or copper, right? Exactly. Anyway, we record the treatment, so I'll add it as a note, okay? Because if we've already done it, we can do the treatment. Copper, propolis.
We brought it home. Let's say the second period. Do you think something is still missing? I'd say, May, let's start writing to each other anyway. Also, taglierba, okay?
Very good, interesting. So let's say May, June, July, but I'd also do April.
Yes.
It's raining, so we have things to do. Any suggestions for mowing the grass? About the grass, many keep it tall, many keep it short, many don't.
Here too, it's a whole world to explore. Over the course of the year, mowing the grass 2 or 3 times is the bare minimum. Certainly, tall grass still creates a favorable microclimate because insects develop in it. There's cover and so on. In July, it's better not to have the olive groves completely clean and trimmed, except in those areas where they are dangerous because of fires.
Yes.
In April, May, when the grass starts to get 20 inches high, maybe we let it finish and let it bloom, and then we cut it.
There he said something interesting. Keep in mind that generally the field grass in the olive grove needs to be managed a bit more. It would be interesting if you started thinking about maybe planting some dwarf clover in your olive grove. Can you plant species that you don't have to cut and they also bloom so I get extra benefits? They also fix nitrogen for me, but well, that's another aspect. Consider investing for a year since it costs a bit, but it handles everything for me. Take some definite actions. They might have olive trees outside and say, wait a minute, it's also about aesthetics.
Then we talk in a general sense about the ecosystem, so flowering, insects, clover, all the legumes that fix nitrogen, so they give nitrogen to the soil. We create a better and more stable environment for the olive grove.
Marco mentioned something important, safety. Some actions are demonized, but remember, some are for safety. Absolutely. Sadly, during dry summers, a passerby with a cigarette can start fires. So it's good, in short, to pay attention to certain things that maybe aren't the best from an agronomic point of view, but are also done for safety.
In the rainier areas, the cuts are more frequent, but where there are problems with drought, high temperatures, or fires, it's different. I know companies or friends in different regions, and in Sardinia, the municipalities require people to cut the grass.
Let me mention one here since we've talked about it. Say a couple of words about irrigation. Maybe we take it for granted, but I see that you have the system, let's say, irrigated. My olive trees aren't, but maybe we can talk about it.
First, let's examine the olive tree, which has a shallow root system in the top 16 inches. It's a plant that can't tolerate waterlogging, but it does need irrigation. So the ideal interaction between climate, soil, and water is frequent rainfall, with water that drains quickly. Irrigation becomes essential in the spring for leaf differentiation, for branch development, and it becomes crucial for the development of olives. In the second part of the season,
a rainy April or maybe May could benefit us.
Normally until May we're pretty calm, from June, mid-June until the end of August. The warning bell for crisis or safety.
How do you know?
I look at the leaves, experience, very simply. If we're talking about experience or visual cues, the leaves, as the saying goes, close up like a shower, meaning they fold in on themselves. It was classic, but this happens with all plants, meaning the leaf compacts itself, and then, in the case of the olive tree, the olives shrivel and become small. So you can see it very clearly.
They dehydrate.
During extreme droughts, you can see all the grass burned.
Since we don't see irrigation, let's focus on it and learn what to do.
Exactly.
Second part, anyway, we have it, but not that much. I mean, if we are well organized, and that's why, since I already have to do 3 treatments with the traps, can I buy the traps in advance?
Absolutely, yes.
A little trick, since you also have to keep an eye on the money. If you go get them in season with chimney, they always cost much more. Getting the material, let's say out of season, can definitely be an advantage.
According to Trucchetto, collective purchases are also beneficial because these mass trapping devices work well if they cover a certain number of olive trees. So the more olive growers, considering the fragmentation that exists in Italy, the more olive growers collaborate and come together.
It decreases.
First, they buy, maybe at slightly more favorable costs, and second, they protect the olive grove much better.
Especially in the case, let's say, of owners who are a bit old-fashioned or owners who live somewhere else. My advice, I did it myself, is for you to take the initiative and say, look, let's do it. I'll install them for you. Since there are only a few traps to set, it's easy, and it's something that actually protects. Second part, we did it right. Second part.
We did it.
I would move on to the third part, which let's say is the most enjoyable part because it's the part where we have to go into production, right? Yes?
It's also the toughest one.
Okay, so here we start talking about August.
Yes, I would still add a bit of July at the end, but okay.
So let's do August 26 here as well.
Here too, July, August, September.
Perfect, because, okay, we'll do double actions in July and August. September we'll do October, with a bit left over for November too.
No, that's enough.
That's enough, okay.
If we think about reaching the collection closes the year and is not part of this program.
What do we do?
The foundation of everything is Mosca dell'Olivo, Mosca.
Then let's mark it.
because yes, it's in big bold letters and underlined.
So we've kind of solved the bug.
So the bug, if we keep going with the traps then we put it there. Even with a couple of good targeted treatments, more or less, we can handle it.
We can handle it. The fly, on the other hand, is nasty.
The fly is tough, okay.
Basically, July and August affected me, yes.
Except July, because the mistake that was made this year was not considering that with climate change, the fly came earlier, much earlier. So even in areas where it historically started in mid-August, this year it started in the first days of July. So July, we start monitoring, which means that someone physically goes into the field and starts placing traps for monitoring and capturing the adults.
The traps are the same.
Yes, the traps are the same, but we have to maintain them.
Keep them monitored, pay more attention to them, maybe compared to June. So here we come by even every 10 days.
Here we come by even once a week.
Once a week, once a week.
So let's mark it and set the traps, then count the insects on the traps and evaluate the olives.
So both in the count in the trap and in the olive?
Yes, in the traps. The warning sign is catching the female. When I catch the female, it means we're almost ready to see damage on the olives. And then, once I see a spike, or at least an increase in the number of adult males and the presence of females on the trap, then I start looking at the olives.
Be careful, this was a record-breaking season. Here the oil mills struggled a lot because they didn't work much since the fly ate everything. But Marco harvested, he harvested because he's doing these operations. So what you're being told is really the result of continuous action, especially in an organic way, because you are organic, it's been certified for years.
Almost 17 years.
So I'd say yes.
Because I'm telling you it's a monitoring. Because now we're getting into the two categories of products used for the fly, which are preventive and curative.
So wait, let's separate things for a moment. So now we're talking about treatments, right?
That ideally fall.
So I have the correct estimate?
Yes, preventive and curative.
I'll write it down. Let's use the estimate for now.
Preventive, however, means that it prevents, so these work if we don't have damage on the olives.
So wait a moment. I look at the fly, I look at the trap. In the trap I find the female. It's already too late. I can't do anything anymore, no.
You have to be quick. I look at the trap, I see that I have an increase in catches. If I find a female, it doesn't mean that all my olives are infested, but I'm in a situation where I have to treat immediately. And the estimate, there are a whole series of products that we can also list, such as kaolin.
So kaolin, let's say, is a rock powder that colors our plants. They turn white, and the fly doesn't see them, or rather, more or less doesn't see them. If it rains here, of course, it washes off, and I have to do it again. Exactly, okay?
Kaolin, a quick note about kaolin, it's also used to deal with drought. So in areas, especially in central and southern Italy, we can also go back a bit and maybe do treatments already in June or July.
Let's put it here. I'll put kaolin.
Exactly, because it basically limits sweating.
Let's say of the plant. Yes.
Then the white rock powder has a reflective power. It reflects the sun's rays and lowers the temperature of the plant's leaves and reduces dehydration.
Kaolin can be purchased without a license. Not everyone...
Kaolins are available without a license if classified as a reinforcing agent.
Perfect, and we can get it if needed. Anyway.
When we go to buy it, we immediately know that the person selling it to us asks for our license.
Of course, license.
Then zeolite, another type of powder like dente.
Let's say yes.
Like fastidente.
So it kind of causes hives, let's say, for our copper insects.
It heals anyway, no matter what.
It's annoying.
Let's say it's annoying towards others.
Mosca quoi? If you get stung, just say olive to close it quickly or avoid trouble.
Yes. Also because these are preventive products. With these, we keep the fly away from the olive grove.
Here, treatments are not done on a schedule. However, it could be that every 15 days they are
covering products. So when it rains heavily, 21 inch, I repeat, or if it goes from July to October without a drop of rain, you need 3-4 treatments.
Okay, so I'll still write days, let's say from 15 to 20 days.
Also, just a small note, because it's almost always overlooked, the olive grows, so the kaolin I apply in August to a small olive. As the olive grows, by the end of August, the olive has gotten bigger and has lost some of its coverage.
Of course.
So the olive fruit fly will likely sting it.
Clear? Are we being proactive or should I close it? No.
Let's continue with the products. Still organic. We have Spintor Fly,
Which is the same one we used.
which, like these, repels them. This one, on the other hand, works by attracting flies because it's a protein bait.
Okay.
It attracts the fly, and then the fly feeds on this poison protein bait and dies.
It dies. Well,
The technique is called, and I think many have already heard of it, attract and kill, meaning I attract and kill.
sure, well, it makes sense.
But this is also preventive because all these products act on the adults,
On adults, not the young.
not on the adults. There is only one, but I won't mention the brand name, just the product, which is neem oil,
Okay.
and we'll write it here. No, I tried it this year. I have to tell you that I liked it. It's really expensive, so let's keep it as a backup. This also has an effect. It has an effect on adults. It has an effect on the eggs and on the first stage larvae.
Because it kills them. Okay, so I'll explain why I said let's see. In the sense that there's a smell. I mean, if you have it at home, you can smell a bit of it. And the second thing, be careful because many containers are transparent and neem oil is photosensitive, so heat. You want a reliable supplier or you'll end up using it incorrectly. I stopped using it on vegetables because it was a gamble.
So let me tell you,
It had a conflicting effect.
that's my experience. This year I did 9 Cocaolino treatments because unfortunately the end of August and September were rainy. I treated the day after 30 m of rain, I treated them again. At a certain point though, with all these flies and these conditions, I saw and noticed several stings. I used neem oil and I still managed to save the okay.
Do you also notice different experiences?
Should it be managed a bit like Jolly?
Of course.
Also because the cost is very high, it's very high.
If you use it, let's say, don't go and get neem oil as oil. But the premix ones mean that when you add them to water, they don't form an oil bubble on top of the water. They mix, meaning they're made for the product.
Today on the market it's based on neem oil, but it's a liquid product that you then mix in the sprayer and it's ready to use. Let's not take pure neem oil.
You don't always find good products. I've used it for years in vegetable gardens and so on, and here are some estimates and something else too.
No, I'd say we're pretty much all set.
At a certain point, well, someone just pushed fly. We'll set it aside. Maybe we'll use the azulito in the garden. We'll get it. We already have the copper. The last one, if anything, is neem oil, but if needed, we'll buy it in season. If we really see that it's desperate, yes.
Yes, absolutely.
The estimate, I can close it.
We close the estimates. This way, we've listed 90% of the products, the ones most commonly used.
Then we say care, right?
There are treatments.
Curative means it gets to the point.
We're talking about products that are not for organic farming.
Okay.
And these are products that need to be used very carefully because they're fat soluble. Can you explain better what it means that these products end up in the oil? So you really need to read the label carefully and pay attention to the doses to use. Because if we get the dose wrong per quintal of water or per hectare,
I'll find them in the oil.
the plant may not fully metabolize them even after some time. And if we get the withdrawal period wrong, meaning the interval between the last treatment and the harvest, we'll definitely find them in the oil.
So let's open the footnote. Now, if you have more than 40 trees, in my opinion, get the license to do the treatments because it's useful even just to buy organic products. Maybe here we won't mention the names of the curative products, right?
I'll give you the active ingredients.
Right, the active ingredients. What should I do? Even in the vineyard where I can manage alone with my license, I still rely on Marco, the agronomist. I ask him questions, sometimes wondering if I should do it or not. Even there, if you have to use them, antibiotics are sometimes necessary, like when you have bronchopneumonia. But you always consult a doctor, so let's also rely on experts.
Moreover, these treatments,
If we find them in the oil, no.
they definitely don't have the effectiveness of the products from 10 or 15 years ago.
Because they've reduced, let's say, removed a series of molecules. Yes,
So they don't have the same effectiveness as before. So you basically have to use them almost as a preventive measure. I mean, when I have a bite or a small larva, they're fine. But when I have a big larva, this is the big larva. Here,
if we discussed kaolin earlier, rain washes it away, so I have to reapply it the next day since it's just rock powder. With the treatments, even the flyer push. Always read the label. If it says 15 days, it means 15 days. There's risk after that.
I'll give you one example, acetamiprid. This, for example, is a product that, depending on the formulation, can be used 2 or 3 times per season, has a 14-day withdrawal period, and has a certain amount per hectoliter. You have to be very careful to read the label. Personally, when it comes to small farms or small olive groves, I always go with estimates. Here we might be dealing with much larger situations that shouldn't be demonized.
But you must know exactly what you're doing.
You just need to know what you're doing, but if you work well, it's clear that much more attention and dedication are needed. But here we are completely sure, and we have no residues in the oil that require multi-residue analyses to detect. There's a third category we can write down, which are the reducers, okay?
Here, as he says, we knock them down later, which is allowed anyway.
Which is also allowed in organic farming.
Even though I don't recommend it.
And that's why we put it there, because later we'll open a small parenthesis about deltamethrin.
Which is not organic.
But it's not organic. These, as the name suggests, are knockdown agents, so they work on adults and should be used as a sort of prevention. Why did I keep them separate? They're generic knockdown agents. So when I treat with the PI, not only do I kill the fly, I kill everything I find at that moment.
Everything?
Everything. So you need to have extreme sensitivity, extreme caution.
Can I ride at night or not? Will I catch the fly? No.
The backlight is still needed at night due to its higher sensitivity?
Here.
Regardless.
And on top of that, we don't get stung by bees.
No.
Absolutely don't let it get messy.
You have to be almost criminal. Use these products at noon.
Of course.
Because it really means, moreover, when we kill all the insects, we kill the ecosystem. Of course, then maybe we wanted to create with legumes.
With grass, sure, nice. I didn't cut the grass.
We unleash our imagination, then use those ideas here to clear the field.
Showcase Delta, you need a license here.
You need a license?
Here too. We have to be careful with the timing. Yes.
Very careful also about human safety, because this works at a neurological level on the neurons of insects. But be careful when distributing it, because it's quite strong for everyone.
Naturally toxic, DP, but here, wash off immediately with a shower. And that's it. Let's say that's the treatment here. Looks like we've made a never-ending shopping list.
We've made a list. I repeat, we work here and we're all calm.
Okay, but in the meantime, we haven't talked about any pruning or other fertilizations. We can write no here.
While now here we've focused on the fly.
Of course.
We finish in July, and in mid-August we're still dealing with the stink bug because it's still around.
Okay, stink bug. Okay, what do we do?
Always traps for the stink bug. We keep using traps. If the number of insects is really significant, and if we see the clear effect of the stink bug, which is fruit drop, so the fruit falling because of the stink bug, we use, maybe with the right caution, either pyrethrum, deltamethrin, or acetamiprid, so we apply the treatment exactly when it's needed. Perhaps for the fly, since we need to try,
Since pyrethrum works on small stink bugs, but not on the big ones, definitely.
Because they have a shell like a cockroach, like a tank, so...
Huh? Aldetamitrina does it for.
But the key word in all of this is just one, monitoring. We, compared to the past, need to understand that either we or whoever does it for us must go into the olive grove and see what the land is asking for.
In the presence of the farmer?
Once a week.
Period, take a walk, do the little one, a little one.
A monitoring done, for example, in this olive grove is valid for 10,000 olive trees. But there have to be sensitive points where the monitoring is done, and at the territorial level, you also know what's happening.
I'll handle the irrigation instead, since I might not finish the pruning. Let's focus on irrigation since it's necessary.
Yes, it needs it, because that means July, August, and mid-September.
Of course.
Because this phase includes olive swelling and oil formation.
That is, this is when I produce, right, in these months here, August, September, October.
Oil formation.
Of course, then we do a pruning, so pruning means removing.
Shoots and suckers.
Better.
Let's
put it anyway, I'll write it here.
Who has time?
Pruning, let's say, if we can manage, so we have the shoots, the suckers. Around mid-August we get to the harvest. No, there's something.
The first pruning is the last mowing before the harvest to prepare the soil by cutting the grass. And a flaw, since you're talking to me about the harvest, that it can have kaolin being a rock powder covers. Let's try, if possible, to keep it a little away from the harvest, because otherwise arriving at the harvest with white plants is bothersome. Besides, some mills might complain about receiving them. The white olives, however, are washed with the washing machines. We're the ones who have problems because we have to harvest with glasses and masks.
Of course, because we're using the idea.
And the best thing in preventive treatments is maybe to start with kaolin, or in any case with powders, and then finish with spint or fly or oil. This way I first keep the flies away for a good part of the season. Then in the last part, so in the last 15 to 20 days, I use products that attract them so they eliminate the flies.
So if we did things right, we worked well, everything went well, nice season and so on.
We get to this blessed harvest.
We harvest properly. So let's not say too much about the harvest itself. We've made a handbook about it. We'll make another video because here another huge chapter opens up.
And so on, a long chapter.
So
anyway, the basics of harvesting, now universally recognized, are to harvest quickly when the olives are just starting to ripen and to deliver them to the mill and process them immediately.
here, maybe let's make a note of that. Book the mill. Yes.
Book the mill.
We know because if we keep going around our olive grove, we get more or less the idea, so we can book it correctly. Anyway,
from the first days of October, we start harvesting.
And let's say that once we finish harvesting, we can apply a treatment.
Yes, and so we come back around December 25, or anyway in November. Let's say I do the propolis treatment. Let's do 2 of them.
Okay.
This way we do all the things. Propolis/copper for disinfection.
What does it mean that it's a moment when we're creating black microfractures, branches?
Look, the olive harvesters which are now commonly used are like a light hailstorm.
Exactly, that's why we do it.
Because there are still some small damages, some injuries. So especially for cultivars that are sensitive to olive anthracnose, which develops with hail, these are fundamental.
Be careful, Marco's words are important. If you have a little bit of anthracnose, the time when anthracnose spreads even before pruning is actually during the harvest. So being able to stop it, block it, seal it can be a good thing to do.
And then in the areas that are more sensitive to the main olive fungus, which is peacock's eye.
Ah, there it is.
And so I'm mainly referring to northern Italy. I mean, look at the beautiful weather we have. A second treatment of copper, Bordeaux mixture. Copper, which is the Bordeaux mixture, the specific product, because it's the Bordeaux mixture, because it stops the vegetation and it's perfect during the winter. So it slows down or stops the plant's vegetation and gives me coverage to prevent peacock's eye. We then keep this under control during the year with all these treatments we've mentioned.
Copper here.
Copper here, because if you look at it and read it as a whole, there are repetitive products that still cover all the various pathologies. So it seems like a complicated program, but if it's done consistently over time, over the years, we still get results.
Now, olive growing is very similar, let's say, to those who keep and manage bees. Once it was a walk in the park because you would just put the hive there, or you had the trees that have been there for 2,000 years and you would harvest. In recent years, it's becoming something not complicated, but something that needs attention, that needs to be taken care of. Yes.
Something needing attention or care. That's the right word.
So the clearer we have a plan, our steps. I especially think about those living in northern or southern Italy. He can plan the plants well, knows what to get, knows what equipment or who to refer to or what instructions to give. Yes.
As I told you, it's a program anyway, more or less, within everyone's reach.
Now there's a big trick, though, to remove it. Good, hold this for me. This, and this. So you don't do any of these actions anymore? It's called mechanical rights, so mechanical coverage. Of course, you can't do this with all olive groves. We need new olive groves. This year, with Marco, we're actually going to follow them and try to understand why. You see, there are many actions to take. Why not? So, also to see new technologies. I can't see them now, but the poles and nets are over there, so we'll see them soon, right?
March 2026?
March 2026, they're being installed now. As you can see, this is a pretty technical video, gentlemen. It's gold. Because finding competent people, finding someone who can make a plan for you and give you such a tailored consultation is no small thing. So subscribe to the channel, because here we're constantly raising the bar to try to give you all the tools. Why are we doing this? It's simple. For increasingly sustainable, locally rooted agriculture, we must all grow together. And this is the way to do it. Training, 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 training. So in short,
Thank you very much, Marco.
and we have already explained to you what we will do in the coming months, how you will see us in the coming months. See you in the next video. Hello everyone, bye.